So the University of Missouri, some major facts is it was founded in 1839. We just had our 175th anniversary this last year. It's a land-grant university with Carnegie Research, very high and community engaged. It's only one of 34 public institutions in the country that is a member of the AAU. And then last year we had a fall enrollment, or this fall we had a fall enrollment of a little over 35,000 students. And on our MU strategic operating plan, our goal is to have 38,000 students. Just a little about campus facilities. Our annual budget is somewhere around $150 million a year. We have $6.73 million E&G space. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Consists of 183 buildings. That's not counting all of our farms throughout the state. And our campus replacement value is $2.35 billion. We maintain 735 acres on our main campus. And what we're really impressed with or happy with is our sustainability efforts. Since 1990, we have reduced our greenhouse gas emissions by 57%. And then we have roughly about $125 to $150 million a year in new construction projects. Okay, to talk about our current budget. Our maintenance budget for fiscal year 14 was $16 million. If you take a look at that $16 million and you put that towards our campus replacement value, we're only at 0.68% campus replacement value as our maintenance budget. Then if you take out $6.7 million a year for just daily maintenance, we are actually at $9.3 million for our capital maintenance budget. That brings us down to a 0.396. So as you guys know in this room, that's not a very comfortable position to be in. So what we wanted to do, instead of me trying to tell the university what our budget should be, I have found through the years, no matter what I say, it seems like I need someone from the outside to validate what we're saying. So we came about this from two different directions. One, we have a facility audit in ISIS, and we started our relationship with ISIS probably about 15 years ago. We're very fortunate we have every single one of our E&G facilities on campus with a facilities audit. What they do is they take a look at each one of the buildings, they define the deficiencies of the building, put an estimate of that building, and then put a ratio for us, the FCNI, and I think most of you guys know what that is, for each one of our buildings based upon the replacement value of that building. So for instance, if you have a 0.80, that is 80% of that building is deficient in relation to the replacement value of that building. I have a building on campus that's got a 1.20. So here's the guidelines that we use at the University of Missouri. Our goal is to have all of our buildings and our campus to have an FCNI of 0.30 or lower. Okay, that's what we've historically done. Right now our campus is at a 0.29. And I'll talk a little bit more about that because we've been able to hold that for the last few years. We also say that if we have a building that has a FCNI of 0.40 or larger, 40% or larger of the building needs replaced, and we will treat that as a candidate for full building replacement or full building renovation. It's important to understand that some buildings, even though they should be totally renovated, it's best if the building were to be taken down and replaced. At the University of Missouri, we've started that conversation, but we're not there yet of convincing the necessity of actually just demoing a building and rebuilding the right place of it. That is something I hope to be able to do in the next few years. So this is our guideline. We want to be above a 0.30, and anything above a 0.40 is something that we would consider full building renovation. So when ISIS did our audits, by the way, we try to keep our audits up to date. We get audits to 20% of the campus every single year. So that way, every so many years, we have good data to be able to make these decisions on. ISIS gives us a campus replacement value of $2.4 billion and a current backlog of $269 million, and that is a growth rate of $33 million a year. Now remember, our maintenance budget is only $16 million a year. So you see where the problem is. So the recommendation we came up with our ISIS audit is that we need 1.70% campus replacement value for M&R and then 0.32% for daily maintenance to have a maintenance budget of 2.02% annually. We've also been working with sightlines for little over 10 years. I knew Sightlines when I was in another institution before I came to Missouri. They've been with us for 10 years in Missouri. And they are, I think you saw David Canadians this morning, they're an independent benchmarking and analysis consultant. And they basically look at annual stewardship and asset reinvestment. And when we used our Sightlines data, we came up with a campus replacement value of 2.35. That's the one we use as our official number, is a 2.35 billion campus replacement value. And the data suggests that we need to have 1.41% of replacement value for our annual stewardship, or MR target, and 0.30 annual asset reinvestment. And then we had a daily service of 0.332, which gives us a 2.03% of replacement value for a recommended budget. So in summary, MU's currently at 0.68. What our outside consultants have told us is we need to be in the 2%. And then if you look at just an APA, they recommend anywhere between 1.5% to 3% of replacement value. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out we have a problem at the University of Missouri. But it hasn't always been this bad. Just to give you a little bit of history. It's a lot of numbers on the chart, but I'll just call your attention to a few of them. Okay, our best year for funding for the University of Missouri was in 1998. In 1998, we were getting $2.45 per square foot for maintenance, and that equated to $1.50% of replacement value. What's real important is if you go over here and you look at where that money was going, 65% in 1998 was going towards capital repairs, proactive type maintenance, where only 35% was going towards breakdown maintenance. Now, if you go forward to 2014, we're now getting $2.44 per square foot, which is 0.68% of the replacement value. If you were to take that number and use a 2% inflation factor, we should be at 3.36, just to be where we're at in 1998. What's really disturbing is this right here. See, we have gone from 65% proactive maintenance down to 0.39%. And then 61% is reactive maintenance. You folks know in the business that is not a sustainable model. That's just not going to continue because every single year that gets a little bit worse. Now you can get into the data and see why that, if you notice from 2010 we started getting a little bit better, and that actually is a result of the Mizzou Stewardship Model. So here's our campus. The gold is our ENG buildings, and the black are the auxiliary buildings. For those in the audience that do not know the differences, I'm not sure what terminology is used across the country or in your institution. ENG stands for Education in General. At the University of Missouri, that is those facilities that are funded by state appropriations and student tuition. And that would be our teaching, our research, and our administrative type buildings. The buildings that are in dark are auxiliary buildings. They are 100% self-funded. They don't receive any money from the state or student tuition. Everything they get is from selling services. Our hospital, our rec center, student life, dining services, and our student unions. They're all auxiliaries. All in athletics. They don't receive any dollars back. So everything I'm talking about in this presentation has to do with ENG. So that's our campus. And we have, there's several other buildings that are out here, some down here, but the heart of our ENG campus is shown on this diagram. These are the buildings that have a 0.4 up or greater. So as you can tell, we've got a problem. And that's our core academic buildings. That's our older buildings, and it's the buildings that are just not receiving the funding from either the state or by our student tuition. And I need to mention, we are, and depending upon you ask, we're either 44th or 46th in the nation at the lowest for state funding per student at the University of Missouri. We also have a House bill that prohibits us to raise tuition more than CPI. This year's tuition increase is going to be 0.8%. So what have we done? Well, throughout my career, the way we've approached maintenance is we would take our maintenance dollars, and no matter where I've been, it's never enough dollars. And we have, for the most part, shotgunned those maintenance dollars across campus. And the idea was, if you could just spread the love, and everyone feels like they're being treated right, so we would repair an elevator here, repair a roof here, or do some type of project across the campus. But we never really systematically looked at the way we were spending those dollars, other than trying to catch the ones that were on the top of the list for needs. And I realized that there's always going to be those type of projects. So what we come up with, and there's nothing rocket science about this, but it was just a way of trying to change the philosophy. We wanted to start looking at full building renovation for those buildings. Instead of just start running that money around, let's take a look at the worst of the worst on campus and put 7 specific goals to it. And if these 7 goals cannot be addressed, then we would move to another building. So I'm going to start with the goals, and this is the stewardship model. The 7th goal is be able to look our students and the parents in the eye as a good steward. We're a public institution at the University of Missouri, and I've always been in public higher education. Where this really came home to me is the first day that I arrived at the University of Missouri, we had a very large renovation, new construction project going on. And as I went through that project, I was seeing some of the most expensive details I had ever seen in my career. It looked like we were doing nothing but trying to find out how much money can we spend per square foot on a project. We even have a glass bridge in this building. And this is an ENG facility. It's not what I would determine to be like a marketing building. We all have those. Our student centers are marketing building. Our res life halls are marketing building. Our dining services are marketing building. Those buildings need to have a bit of flash, because that's what our students are seeing, that's what our parents are seeing. Where the rubber hits the road, that was really a teaching and research facility. And they need to be nice, but they're not so much of a marketing building, and we do not need those kind of details. So this is something that really came to me, that I do not think that building was a good stewardship project. Even though there was some donor dollars in it, even to this day, if you go in there, you can look at it and say, this is really cool looking, but this group of professionals would go in there and think, this is not needed, and it was not a good stewardship project. So that's the 7th goal. The 6th goal is obviously we want to improve all the ADA accessibility and meet new code requirements. Number 5 is directly correlated to number 7. We want to use standard building construction methods and materials. In other words, we do not want to over-design. We want to really keep a tight rein on our architectural consultants and our engineering consultants, because we know what we want in the matter of where that building should operate, how we're going to maintain that building, and how we're going to, what we want to pay for that building. So we don't want it to be over the top. However, because we do attract faculty, we do attract staff, we do want to make sure it's updated and modernized for the facility. It needs to look nice. And number 3, we want to reduce our operating costs. We want to be able to document, while we're doing the planning for this building, that we will be able to reduce the maintenance costs and reduce the utility costs. I'll just give you a very simple example on the maintenance cost. And all the buildings we'll show you in a minute that we use the stewardship model, the restrooms, we use tile from the ceiling all the way around, ceramic tile. That allows our custodians to go in there with a Kydex machine and sterilize that restroom in a matter of seconds, instead of going in there and spending time trying to keep that restroom clean. Also, that tile will last forever. Now, why that is important is because our custodial budget is in worse shape than our maintenance budget. Our custodians are cleaning 48,000 square foot a day. So because of that, we have to find out how can we design buildings that allow them to be cleaned quicker, and how can we maintain them. So that's just one simple example on that. Eliminate deferred maintenance. When we're finished with one of these buildings, I want the SCNI to be 0. I mean, if it's not going to be 0, let's not do the project. And the most important goal is further the academic mission. What I have found through the years is when we were shotgunning those dollars across the campus, and I was always talking whether it was this institution or the 2 other institutions I've been at, trying to convince a faculty-led campus that we need more money, when they really couldn't tell where we were spending the money we had in the first place. We knew it as facility managers, but we were not communicating, or we could not articulate correctly to the campus how what we do is important to the campus. In fact, our mission statements always said we were here to support, we were here to serve the academic community or the university. We're not here to serve. We're not here to support. We're here to further the academic mission. There's a big difference in that philosophically. So what we're trying to do is figure out as facilities managers, how do we take our limited dollars, learn what the academic community needs, and do that. Let's not do it for us, let's do it for the academic community. And one of the things we've come out, and we're trying to make it simple because we're trying to explain this to many people. So improving the academic mission. The way we define that now, and this is a definition we will continue to work on, is if we can add classroom seats to a building when we finish renovating. If we can increase the room for teaching. If we can add research space after we finish renovating. If we can improve the existing research space. If we can make the space, when we're finished renovating the building, more flexible, that allows for changing pedagogical needs, and we're improving the academic performance of that building. So instead of me trying to explain to a group of faculty, changing the air handler and doing this and doing that and doing that, how that makes it better for you, I can specifically get to what's important to them, teaching and research. So it's the way we're communicating, it's the messaging that we put out there. So here we've completed three. We've completed 3 projects. We have a 4th one that's in the works, and we have a 5th one that is teed up. The architects are hired, and the design is going on right now. So Tate Hall was our first project. It was an $8.6 million project. It was original law school, and law school moved out several years ago, and now it's the School of English. When we were finished with the project, we added 62 additional classroom seats and 23 faculty offices. I forgot that was the other thing. It's faculty space. We have a shortage of faculty offices on campus. We eliminated $6.97 million in deferred maintenance, and we have an FCNI of 0 with that building. Switzer Hall, it's the second oldest building on campus. It was a $7 million project. We added 220 additional classroom seats and 11 offices. We eliminated $3.87 million in deferred maintenance, and that's pretty neat if you think the total cost of construction, about half of it, over half of it was just deferred maintenance. And the FCNI is 0. And that met all the goals. If you look at the buildings, there's nothing ostentatious about any of them. It's just standard design and construction methods. Gwynn Hall is our latest project. We finished up, I believe, last fall. It was an $11.5 million project. We added 4,000 square feet of nutritional research space in that building, and we eliminated $9.21 million in deferred maintenance, and it also, too, has an FCNI of 0. But what we learned between Switzer and Gwynn is the importance of flexibility. In this facility, we used a lot of the mountable partitions. We call them dirt walls. That allows us now to where we can change this space around if pedagogical needs. And this particular school has a lot of changes they've gone through. So hopefully, as renovations are needed, they would be less expensive. We spend a little bit more money up front on those demountable partition walls. We know that the renovation costs will be a lot cheaper. That's the first 3. But between those 3 projects, we reduced the maintenance and operating costs by $100,000 a year. Actually, we will over $125,000 a year, just for those 3 projects. Swallow Hall, this is a project of a different color. It's on our historical quad. It's a historical building. This is a building that if it were anywhere but where it's at, should have been taken to ground. The structure was shot, the foundation was shot, the roof structure was shot. Everything about this building was in bad shape. I compared this building to trying to build an airplane in the air. What we're going to do on this facility is this is the front of it. As you can tell, it's gutted. Everything's out of the structure. Even the whole back of it's open. And that's the back of the building now. And that's what the back of the building will look like when it's done. The idea is it had a 6.5 foot floor-to-ceiling height basement in there that was unusable. It also had a fairly good attic space in there. So by taking the back of this building out, we had to keep the building, it's on the historical record and all the things that goes on with that. We're digging the basement out, and we're going to be able to also raise the roof line by 3 feet in the back. So we're increasing the square footage of this project by 8,300 square foot, which is about 30% of the building size. So it's a $16.9 million project. pretty expensive per square foot, really challenges the stewardship model. The only reason why we can really get by with this is because of the historical significance of this building. But I still have problems with that we're doing this particular project. But we are adding a 100-seat auditorium that we're not there before. And again, like I said, we're adding 8,300 square foot of research space in this building. And we will eliminate $5.65 million worth of deferred maintenance. And we've already calculated that we would save $15,000 a year just in our operating costs for this facility. So why does this work? Why does the stewardship model work, at least at the University of Missouri? The reason is I think it's the messaging and what we're trying to put out there in the philosophy. It's not about the buildings. In my tenure in facilities management, I think that we talk about buildings too much. What we really need to talk about and focus on is about the teaching and the research. If all of our messaging is about teaching and research, and everything that we do is driven by can we further that educational mission with the decisions we make as facility managers, then I think we have an opportunity to be partners with the academic community and not try to serve them or support them because they really don't know what that means. But if we understand the academic mission, and I'll give you a great example, and I think that the success of this has been something that's just happened in the last 2 weeks. About a year ago, we got a new chancellor. And one of the things that he noticed when he came here is that obviously the University of Missouri does not have enough money to do everything we were doing. We were spending our campus dollars, pretty much like that diagram I showed you on our maintenance dollars. We shotgunned all of our dollars across the campus for all different programs. And in the end of the day, nothing was excellent. Because everything got a little bit of a pie, but nothing was excellent. So what he did, he put together a committee. It's called the Budget Allocation Advisory Committee. And that advisory committee is faculty, staff, and students, heavily on the side of faculty because of shared governance issues. And it was to take a look at the income that we have as an institution and take a look at all the wants and needs of the institution and make a recommendation to the chancellor on how we were going to spend those dollars and raise the academic, or further that academic mission. We finished that a few weeks ago. And we submitted our priorities to the chancellor. The number one priority for the University of Missouri, using our limited dollars, is to raise faculty salaries. We're an AAU institute. Our salaries are towards the bottom, and quite frankly, we're getting picked. So that was the number one recommendation from this committee. The number two recommendation from this committee is hire more high-powered faculty. Okay, again, we're an AAU institute. We want to compete. We want to continue to compete. So that's number two. Number three was increase the funding for facilities. Out of all the things in the University of Missouri, it was number three of all those programs. Now, have we seen anything yet? That's still being under consideration. But the truth is the reason why I think we're there is because we have taken our mission and directly put it in to furthering the academic mission. And I think if we can all do that, instead of talking about the buildings, we're talking about the academic mission, we have a much better chance of being what the university wants us to be. So that concludes my formal presentation, and I will open up any questions, comments. Yes, sir.
You did a great job in what you're doing. You did, full transparency, indicate that your operating costs are going down in certain projects. Where's that money going?
We get to keep it.
What are you doing with it?
Putting it into another renovation. I'm trying to, if I can renovate a building every year to a year and a half, and I'm glad you brought that up. I showed you that one chart, where we're starting to kind of flatten out our FC&I. Our campus FC&I was getting worse every single year. We've actually held that constant for the last 3 years. And the reason being is when we do one of these renovations, these full building renovations, and it's a bad building, they're usually up there in the 0.8, 0.9 FC&Is, that removes all that deferred maintenance out of that building and puts it at a zero. So any of those operating costs that we get, we're putting into the pool to try to be able to do another building renovation. The other thing is the campus is starting to see the benefit of the stewardship model, and when there's nickels and dimes, any type of one-time cost, they're trying to make that available in order to be able to do another renovation. And it's not because of the things that we're talking about on the FC&I. The campus knows about the FC&I too, because we've done a very good job of training the FC&I. Our board knows about the FC&I. In fact, I heard that our governor now knows what an FCNI means. So the truth is, it's about improving that academic mission. So the campus sees the benefit of spending that dollar on facilities, to where now it's even right behind hiring faculty and faculty salaries. Question back there.
So my question is, does ISIS give you the replacement values? Where do those numbers come from? Who updates them? That sort of thing. Or is it just estimated construction cost replacement? What's the deal?
I don't know. You know, I thought about that last night. I thought someone's going to ask me that question. I don't know, because my director over facilities operations deals with ISIS on a daily basis. I know that they give us in an audit, it has the replacement value for that facility and the deficiencies. I do not know if ISIS is rolling that up for us and giving us the replacement value for the campus or not. I really don't. But if you want to send me an email, I will get you in touch with Jeff Brown, the person that works with all of the nuts and bolts of these numbers. But I can tell you that Sightlines does give us our replacement value, because we specifically hired them to do that for us. And that's why we use the $2.35 billion as our replacement value.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking the one question I knew I could answer. I'm sure there'll be more, but that one I knew I could. Thank you.
Hey, Gary, can you talk a little bit about how you're lining up coordination of departmental funding and tying that into the stewardship model?
Yeah, the one thing that, because of the popularity, thank you, David, okay, that's silent. Because of the popularity we're getting from the stewardship model and the messaging of that model. And by the way, the reason why I wanted to bring you that annual report, that's part of the messaging. I'm sorry that I didn't have enough for everyone because we gave them out. But one of the things we really have to do is market what we're there for, and it's not to serve and support. It's about teaching and research, and that's what we're trying to do even as a division. So when we have a project, and some of these projects, you know, I don't have that much capital dollars to be able to put into a building. Some departments are giving us dollars. We may get some one-time dollars from the provost office. We may get some one-time dollars from the system. We actually had some one-time dollars that helped us with a project I told you it's on the starting line, is our engineering facility. Some of the dollars for that is because of refinancing. So there's some dollars left over from the guarantee that we're put into that. But the departments are excited because they know that instead of taking their $1.2 million worth of departmental funding and working on a lab, that if they would give that to me, I will put that part of renovating that entire building. So I don't know if you're seeing across your campuses, we can do nothing anymore without a collaborative financial effort. There's multiple funding sources that come into every single one of our renovation projects. But there's more of a willingness to do it now. David, that answer your question?
Yeah, I actually think about the lead time, because it's the lead time on a length of planning. You must be talking to folks thinking 2 or 3 years out.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're always trying to find candidates that we can do for the next project. And it's interesting, since we have these FCNIs, we've had to do a lot of discussion with the campus that that's not the priority list. These buildings that I showed you are not our worst building. I told you I've got a 1.2 FCNI building on campus. That may be our worst FCNI, but that is not the worst building. I mean, the most important building, because its academic mission is really not that strong. It's more of an administrative type building. So that'll be a while before we get to that. So these conversations that we start talking about, Lafayette Hall, which is a building that it's on the starting lines, those conversations started over a decade ago. And the one after that we're looking at is Stewart Hall. Those conversations I started probably 5 years ago. So we have to start conversations earlier. It's a philosophical conversation, and then we try to start putting some meat on the bones as we start seeing some real funding sources develop.
I can appreciate your comment on the controlling the architects and engineers in terms of scope and not being too flashy. Can you talk about any strategies to do that with your team as well as the client? And then also, how does philanthropy figure into that? Do you have to get a hold of the donors and so forth?
Yeah, one of the things that we've done is I've had to be ruthless. I mean, absolutely ruthless. On Gwen Hall, I'm a little ashamed to say this, but this is the only way I think I can make it. When I went through the final punch list on that building, because I had not seen very much of it, and that's my fault. I tried to do better than that. There were certain light fixtures in the building that, in my opinion, did not fit the stewardship model. For one thing, I didn't say it, but I don't want anything that has to be on a boat to go into the building. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but pretty much that's what I mean. If it had to be on a boat, I don't want it to be in the building. There were light fixtures that were in there. We had stainless steel cover plates throughout the building, and no one can answer me why we had those. I made our PD&C department pay for that. I took it out of their fee. And reimburse the project for that because it did not fit the stewardship model. I will tell you, since then, we've not had any problem with our internal folks monitoring that. And they're watching the specs, they're watching the architect. I also tell our folks that when they hire an architect, I expect them to take them over to that building, and I was describing at the very beginning of the presentation, and show them that building and say, this is what I do not want. Then I tell them to take them over to Chancellor Hall. This is what I want. I want that building. The Chancellor Hall turned out to be just perfect. I mean, it's a really nice facility. But we continue to have to push on that. And it's not that architects are trying to go play a job. I'm not sure they truly understand what we're trying to do. Some of it, well, not some of it, most all of this is about financing and the operating costs of a building, but a lot of it's also a philosophy. Trying to get our design community to understand that we are a public institution and we have to be good stewards. So some of it is the messaging we're trying to get. Anything else? Well, I appreciate the time here today, and I'm going to be around for a couple more minutes, and then I've got to leave because I got an early flight. But I appreciate being here. Michael, thank you so much.